Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into something pretty central to management consulting, but maybe, not always fully understood. We're talking about the different ways these firms actually engage with clients. We've got some great source material, especially one called video3.pdf, which really helps map out these engagement models. So our mission here is basically to unpack these frameworks, how projects get structured, how scope is defined, collaboration terms, all that. Because understanding this stuff, well, it can really help you leverage consulting more effectively to hit your own strategic goals. So yeah, let's jump in.
Absolutely, and it's quite fascinating because these engagement models, they're not just contracts, they're fundamental frameworks.
Mm.
They really guide the whole interaction,
Yeah.
right, between the consultants and the clients, and they're specifically designed to deliver, well, specific kinds of value and support the strategic goals we mentioned. So yeah, we'll look at project-based, retainer, and advisory services. We'll get into the benefits, but also, importantly, the things you need to watch out for with each one.
Okay, great. So let's start with maybe the most common one people think of, project-based consulting. Our source calls these discrete, time-bound initiatives. Sounds like the classic consultant gig for a specific problem, right? A clear beginning and end.
Exactly. Think of it like a focus sprint. The consulting firm comes in, partners with you, um, leverages their specific know-how and resources, but it's all within a pretty defined time frame and budget. It's about solving that specific thing.
Okay, so if it's a sprint, what are the core mechanics? What makes it work?
Well, first off, and this is absolutely critical, you've got to nail down the scope right at the start. We mean crystal clear objectives, what the deliverables are, the timeline, who's doing what, the resources needed.
Get everyone on the same page from day one.
Precisely. Then there's the tailored solution part. Consultants use their industry smarts, their analytical tools, and they customize a solution. This could be anything. Really developing a new strategy, maybe optimizing a process like making your supply chain leaner, or even restructuring parts of the organization. And you can't forget project management. It's huge here. Keeping things smooth, allocating resources smartly, tracking progress, managing risks.
Keeping the momentum up.
Exactly. And finally, client collaboration is key. Constant communication, feedback loops, making decisions together. You, as the client, are actively involved in shaping things.
So for the client side, what are the big draws? Why choose this focused sprint?
Well, the benefits are pretty clear for those specific needs. You get focused expertise right when you need it for that particular challenge. No long-term baggage. It's usually cost-effective, too, compared to, say, hiring full-time staff or getting locked into a long commitment. You control the spend better. Plus, the structure means things tend to get done efficiently, so you see the value faster, quicker time to value, and there's flexibility. You bring consultants in on an as-needed basis. Need more help, scale up. Project done, scale down.
That does sound good for a contained issue, but, these things often sound simpler than they are. What are the hidden pitfalls or things clients really need to watch out for?
That's a really important point, because while it seems contained, the classic issue is scope creep,
Ah, yes. Project that never ends.
right? So managing that scope rigorously isn't just good practice, it's financially essential. Keeps the sprint from turning into a marathon, like you said. So clear objectives and success criteria up front are non-negotiable. Also, resource availability from the consulting firm side. You need to be sure they can actually staff the project properly.
Makes sense.
And maybe the biggest one people underestimate, change management. These projects often mean changes for your organization. If you don't plan for how to manage that change, handle resistance, and get people on board, well, the project's recommendations might just sit on a shelf.
Right, the implementation fails even if the analysis was good. Okay, so that's the focus sprint. But what if the challenge isn't so neat and tidy? What if it's more about ongoing improvement or navigating constant change? This seems to lead us to retainer consulting. The source talks about a continuous partnership. Sounds very different.
Oh, it's a completely different animal, yes. It moves away from that one-off project idea.
Mm.
It's all about sustained collaboration, building a deeper relationship over time. The core idea is providing that ongoing support, advisory services for needs that evolve. It's a longer game. The consultant gets much more embedded.
Embedded. Okay, so what does that look like day to day or month to month? What are its features?
Well, the defining feature is the long-term partnership itself, often months, sometimes years. That naturally builds deeper trust and understanding. Then there's continuous support. Consultants are proactive, offering guidance on issues as they pop up, spotting opportunities, helping navigate organizational shifts.
So less reactive, more proactive.
Exactly. And often this evolves into strategic advisory, where the consultants become trusted advisors to the top leadership, bringing in strategic insights, best practices. And a key aspect is flexible engagement. You can usually access services as you need them within the retainer structure, adjusting the focus somewhat as priorities shift without needing a whole new contract negotiation each time.
Okay, so moving beyond just fixing one problem, what's the sustained value here for the client?
The benefits really stack up for that longer-term view. Strategic alignment is a big one. Consultants get deeply familiar with your business, your culture, your goals. So the support is truly tailored and evolves with you.
Right, they get the context.
They really do. And that means continuous value. Ongoing access to expertise means you can respond faster to challenges and opportunities. It's also strong on risk mitigation. Because they're embedded, they can often spot potential issues earlier and suggest ways to prevent them. But maybe the real magic, as our source hints, is how it can shift the dynamic. It's less vendor, more partner. They can almost anticipate your needs.
That proactive partnership sounds powerful, but it's a bigger commitment. What are the crucial considerations or potential downsides for clients here?
Yeah, commitment is the key word. So setting very clear expectations, upfront roles, responsibilities, how communication works, that's essential for it to function well. From the firm side, they need to guarantee resource availability. You need access to qualified people consistently, maintaining that quality of service.
Can't have your main contact disappear halfway through.
Precisely. And maybe most importantly, this model demands real flexibility from the consultants. They have to adapt to your changing priorities, to shifting market conditions, to new business dynamics. They need to be able to pivot. It's not static.
Okay, that makes sense. So we have the focused sprint, the long-term partnership. But what about situations that fall somewhere in between? Maybe you don't need a full project team and you don't need continuous support, but you do need some expert brains on a specific issue. This seems like the niche for advisory services, which the source calls a versatile engagement model.
That's a perfect description. Versatile. Advisory services, they really zero in on providing that expert advice, the insights, the thought leadership. It's primarily about informing your decision-making rather than the hands-on implementation or the continuous support of the other models. Think high-level guidance, intellectual horsepower on demand.
Guidance on demand. I like that. So what are the hallmarks of this advisory model?
Key characteristics. Well, number one is strategic guidance, helping you navigate tricky situations, understand market trends, make informed choices aligned with your big goals. Consultants provide customized solutions and recommendations. But again, it's more about the what and why than the how to implement. They draw on a deep industry knowledge for actionable insights. Thought leadership is often a big component too, sharing cutting-edge research, industry analysis, innovative frameworks, things that help you stay ahead of the curve, bringing the outside in. And it often involves ad hoc support. You access expertise when you need it, perhaps for a specific board meeting or a critical decision point, without being locked into a rigid project scope.
So tapping into that expertise when you need it, what are the main advantages for a client going this route?
The benefits are quite distinct. Again, strategic alignment is key, as consultants work to understand your specific context to give targeted advice. A huge one is expertise access. You get specialized knowledge and insights you likely don't have internally. That can be a real competitive edge.
Right, getting that external perspective.
Exactly. That objective perspective is invaluable. Consultants aren't caught up in internal politics or historical biases. They can challenge assumptions. Sometimes the most valuable advice isn't what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. It forces that reconsideration.
Yeah, the uncomfortable truth.
Sometimes. And finally, it's strong on risk mitigation too, helping you spot risks, anticipate disruptions, maybe capitalize on trends you hadn't seen.
That objective view really seems powerful. But for it to work, what do clients need to be particularly mindful of? What makes advisory engagements successful?
Well, even though it's advice-focused, client collaboration is still vital. There needs to be mutual understanding, trust, and ultimately, the client needs to be prepared to act on the recommendations for them to have value.
Right. The advice is useless if it's ignored.
Precisely. Timely delivery is also crucial. When you need advice for a pressing decision, you need it now. Consultants have to be responsive and maybe overarching everything, especially here. Confidentiality and integrity. You're often sharing very sensitive strategic thinking. Trust is paramount. Maintaining ethical standards, safeguarding that information, it's non-negotiable.
Absolutely. Okay, so wrapping this up, we've explored three pretty distinct models here. You've got the project-based model that focused time-bound sprint for specific tasks, then the retainer, the continuous long-term partnership for evolving needs and deeper integration. And finally, advisory services that on-demand, expert-driven guidance for strategic insights and objective perspectives. Understanding these differences, well, it really equips you to think strategically about how to best use external expertise for your specific situation. Yeah, and what's really interesting, I think, is seeing how each one fits a different need so perfectly. If you connect it to the bigger picture, the real skill is choosing the model that aligns best with the specific challenge or strategic goal you have right now. It's about knowing, like we said, when you need a sprint, when you need to build that long-term relationship, or when you just need a really smart, objective opinion. So, what does this all mean for you listening? Well, next time you're facing a complex challenge or a big opportunity, maybe think beyond just if you need help. Think about how that help should be structured. How can you set up the engagement to get the maximum value and really drive a successful outcome? Because choosing the right model, that's not just about logistics. It's a strategic choice that can make all the difference.